So we need to go into the web of life. And what I'm doing is I'm feeling into, this happened about an hour before last night's webinar, and it was such a big eye-opener for me as I was finishing my evening meditation and just resting, and I suddenly felt myself embraced in the most loving hug by the web of life, and realized the I want to say humanity, but that's not the right word, because the web of life doesn't have a human form, but it's like the living reality of the web of life. I suddenly was I just felt as if I could feel into the beating heart of the web of life, that it's compassion, its ability to embrace all things, its sweetness of nature and its organicness of nature. And so that is the aspect of creation that connects everything to everything. So I'm just appealing to, of course, as soon as I realized that, it was so familiar, right? It was like infinitely familiar and sweet and adorable. And it was like dealing with one's own child, or dealing with one's own self, or dealing with a, beloved family member or something, that there was such this intimate familiarity, and like, oh, well, I always know where you are. There's a sacred space. There's a sacred space within your being where you are united with the web of life. And that sacred, it's like a holy space. It's like a temple. You can think of it as an energetic temple of your being, where you on the web of life are in a state of divine union. And that web of life is what connects us to our beloved divine being. So it is a precious, essential thing, and that web of life can look into the point where the technical difficulties are, because it's connected to everything. And what I'm seeing it doing is I have to read you this quote because it's so beautiful. So this person, I leave anonymous, is having technical difficulties. They think it's just their computer, but send their greetings to you and say they are here with you anyway. So feeling into where the awareness wants to fall into this person's physiology. And as we're doing this, it's happening for everyone. And it wants to fall into the heart area, into the heart chest area, and particularly into the actual physical organ of the heart. And the circulatory system. And through the channels of the circulatory system, through the point where the heart organ connects to the various veins and arteries, the big arteries that come out of the heart. There are valves and there are junction points right there. And it's the junction points that got clogged up. And in the case of the person who's having technical difficulties, I'm seeing that the junction points got clogged up with energy from the collective, which there's, you see, it's opening up a bigger picture. Thank you. The bigger picture is that there's very interesting, what my sons call InfoWars. I have adult children, almost adult children. So my sons call InfoWars, which is that the traditional forms of media, we only just barely touched on this for a sentence yesterday, but evidently it wants to come up a little bit fuller now. The traditional media outlets for information have had to take a backseat to alternative media stations and alternative media outlets. And it all happened really fast, so fast. A lot of people did not see it coming. And now a lot of the traditional media outlets are scrambling like crazy because they didn't see that coming very fast, and they didn't protect themselves so that they still had the upper hand on the media, and they still had everybody's ear. So there are discordant feelings connected to that, and they are in the field of technology, and they're in the internet. They're actually in, they get in the lines, they get in the servers, they get in the hardware as well as the software. And of course, with all due respect and honor to the very great traditions of reporting that have been part of our world for eons, actually, and in our most recent century, have been powerful forces of the voice of truth. At least they've done everything they can to reflect truth as well as they can, considering that we're all the expressors are shards of the broken mirror, so God bless everyone in their ability to do that. The only way the media will survive at this point, the only way a media outlet will survive is if they are doing everything they can. This is a message. Everything they can to express totality as completely as possible. Spiritual hygiene. It means the deeper expressions are also very pure. I mean, it's one thing, you know, for a person to be like, well, you know, I'm not eating toxic foods, and I'm making sure that I'm rested, and I'm taking care of my physiology, and I don't smoke or drink or do anything like that, and I'm, you know, I maintain some kind of moral hygiene and so forth. Oh, there's another spiritual hygiene, moral hygiene, those hand in hand. But we come from long traditions of reporting. The reporters make their money off sensationalism. That was a big discovery in the US in the 1920s, in the crash of the stock market. And a lot of people were really, really poor for a long time. But guess who was making a ton of money? The newspaper guys. They were making so much money. I toured a castle that was created by someone who in the 1920s, when everyone was poor, was making money that was really good money for by today's standards. Sensationalism. Sensationalism. So sensationalism, what it's doing is it's saying, okay, I've got my own little shard of the mirror that I'm reflecting back, and I'm going to make it, I want to bend it. I'm going to twist it a little bit, so that it creates more of an emotional tug on the people who see my shard. By the way, we're clearing all through the hardware and software through to this person's computer. All these lots and lots of layers of discordant feelings are clearing out of there, and false belief systems and so forth are clearing right now. Also 3Ms. Oh, I can go in and start getting a read on all of it, but it's happening. I want to keep also orienting towards you guys too. So, because this thing about the sensationalism is important with regards to love relationships. We want truth. You want to be able to feel free with the beloved. You want to be able to feel free to ask anything. And you want them to feel free to say no. So, and then you want to feel free to say, I adore you. Thank you for saying what you thought. So, the thing about sensationalism is it'll take a system like that, it'll go, oh no, they asked for something more than they should have. And then, oh no, the other side said no. And it's just, we don't need any of that stuff. We don't need any of that. We don't need any exaggeration or twisting of facts or digressions or bringing in unnecessary, insignificant information. We don't lies. We don't want untruth. So what we need to do is we need to go into this system where we're going into, God knows, we're going into the media. This was about divine love, wasn't it? Okay, we're going into the media anyway, because this is where it wants to go. And remember, every communication is really communication to our own self, right? So what we want to do is we want to clear out all those little threads, all those little bits of karma that might orient towards anything that's not just the pure truth. We want divine being to come through, the value to come through. We want the value to come through. So that's the value right there. The value is infinite being. And all the sensationalism is like frosting. It's frosting on the cake. As long, remember I was saying before, oh, I guess I should try to become a poet, right? As long as the sensationalism enhances and supports and expands and refines the initial value, fine, bring it on. But if the sensationalism is just there to make a person sick, then it's not fine. And our hearts and the hearts of our ancestors have been kind of jerked around a little bit. I'm sorry to put it in a way that might not be nice, but there's been a certain amount of that going on for a really long time. Manipulation. And it goes on in families, and it goes on between people who feel like they love each other even. And so all this is up on the table right now for change. All of this is up on the table for change. We can heal it. This is a huge, this is the value of the live webinar, you guys. That these are the kind of massive healings which, as a collective, we are adept at performing. I am not performing this healing. I am the reporter of what is being performed. Being is performing this healing. But being is able to take on something massive because of us. Because of us. We are together with this thing. And I know I don't really need to spell out word for word what would be the value of clearing this out of the collective consciousness, because it's pretty obvious that if we strip away all the extraneous material that comes through the communication channels and we get to a pure expression, divine being commenting on its own nature, its commentary, then we redefine the web of life in such a way that it's healthier, because it's through the web of life that all these communications flow, right? The web of life is this amazing life force being thing, which is so it's so abstract that it's not crushed or crumbled or damaged in any way by all the little I shouldn't call them little, because in some people's lives they're big things, but all the things that we deal with at a human, physical, material level of our world, which are challenging to us. It's beyond that, it's beyond all that stuff. But it's completely embracing. It can embrace everything. Like there's a saying in Vedic literature, Brahman consumes everything. Brahman is all consuming. You know, just, oh, this is nasty, I'll eat it. You know, that's fine, I got that one. You know, so, but this beautiful thing that we call the web of life, which exists, this is an extension. Remember, I told people that this webinar is in yesterday's session, that this webinar is kind of an extension of a lot of the work that we did in the previous one, which was the previous webinar, which was Knowing the Inside Tribe, where we went into a lot of detail of understanding the collective level of the physiology. But that collective level, that's where the web of life origin, where we kind of identify it, where we can find it, where we find its home, that temple, that sacred space where you are in union with the web of life is right there at the collective level of the field of consciousness. This is who is healing. Who is healing? The web of life is healing. Our consciousness as a collective, as this amazing and powerful, these webinars keep getting more, I'm not going to hold up my paper again, but keep getting more and more powerful because there's so many people on them. Like every month, it's more. So thank you. Anyway, we're healing the web of life by dissolving, and how I'll explain the mechanics of how we're doing this. Everybody's causal level of the physiology has organs that produce specific effects. Remember, I was saying whatever you radiate, you're the beacon. So what you radiate, it goes up into the relative level of creation, it goes down into the subtle level of creation. Medicines, they're light medicines produced in the causal level of the physiology, which are radiating into the collective level of the physiology. Where is the web of life? And they have this medicine is being produced, this light quality. It's a very pure thing because what's happening is divine being is folding up. It's doing a commentary on itself, but not all the way at the surface. It's doing a commentary just up to the causal level of your physiology. This is your beings are doing this. You are doing this. And it's producing a certain flavor of communication, a certain quality of consciousness, which dissolves the just the little, it's like they're like all these roots or threads, or they're more like roots. If you look at the edges where the karma is, okay, you can think of them like roots. And so that some of them are thicker than others. And we're going in for a really thick one here. And this root is in the collective consciousness of mankind. And it is this aspect of like hitting on the tenderness of the human nature to be compassionate and empathetic, and creating this sensationalism effect in the way information is presented to us. And it has been happening for a long time. It's been happening at least until the 1920s. Oh, reports coming in. The technical difficulties have been repaired. So happy. You should know the person who's just joining us right now who had technical difficulties. You should know ever since the message came in that you were having technical difficulties, we've been doing healings for your technical difficulties to end. So it's like, there we go, guys. There's the validation from nature that it's done. But now that's because I'm at the point now where I'm just going back and I'm describing what we did. So what did we do exactly? What's the mechanics? How did that happen? So how that happened was, for many generations, the nature of humanity to be incredibly compassionate and empathetic and sweet. Humans in our essential nature are a very, very sweet expression of being, and have been under this quality of sweetness has been sort of manipulated or used by the organizations responsible for dispensing information and truth to kind of grab our attention by making us feel like, you know, by offering headlines and things that kind of make a person feel like, oh no, or ooh, or oh, or all various forms of those kind of emotions. Now, the thing is that what reporting really is the wholeness of creation, commenting on its own nature and reporting on itself, and communicating to itself who and what it is. And I could say who and what I am. You could call it I am. That's another way of looking at it. This does not have to arrive at anyone's door with discomfort attached. In fact, all the energies put forth to make it uncomfortable are really not necessary. I'm just feeling the transformation of energy. This is a transformation. It's taking place. It is affecting ancestors, many generations, different for different people in the group. It's affecting the circulatory system. It's affecting the heart. And for the ancestors, it's, I would say, affecting the heart chakra area. Most significantly, this is some self-communications, just like this energy medicine that we were talking about. Some self-communications don't ever get to the dense level of expression. And when we're in this part of the webinar, when we're in this part of the healing process where the energy is just moving, then for the sake of efficiency, it's looping down here at a fine level of creation. And so the loops, the feel of it is being offered back into the field, into divine being, as like a love offering, like a flower. And it is, I'm doing my best to describe it. It is a flow of compassion. It is a flow of respect. It is, there's trust. I'm just describing the elements. I'm breaking it down. I'm breaking down it's like a whole package, like a matrix or like a crystal grid that's got all the different parts, but I'm breaking it down. So it's got respect and compassion. It's also got trust. I trust you. I trust you, being of all creation, to express yourself as cleanly and as refined and concise a manner, and a manner which is appropriate for me to understand. As I said before, we have lots of different people at different levels of connectedness with the kind of work that we're doing in the webinar. So the expression is going to be a little bit different for each person. This isn't just going to you, this is going to your ancestors as well. For most people, I would say almost everybody in this healing, it's going to at least 8 generations of ancestors, some people more. But we've got a minimum of 8 online. And their hearts are being soothed, and they are being comforted, and they are being appreciated for the incredible sacrifice that they made in their lives to make this moment of creation even a thing, even possible, that we can be here at this time doing, is amazing. It is amazing, and all over the world. So there's also some purification happening. There's some purification, and here's the answer that's coming back. You guys don't have to even ask questions. I'm getting them. The answer coming back is, how if I don't have the spin on the information? How if divine being is expressing? If divine being is always expressing in blissful terms, and there's no like shadow in there, there's no density, there's no part that's like slightly uncomfortable, then how do I express that sometimes I feel that way? This is the ancestors are saying this. It's like, they're just like, I have experiences and they're not fun. And it's not easy for me. And my life is challenging. I have a hard row to hoe. That saying came out of the last century, didn't it? Got a hard row to hoe. Yeah, it's a hard row to hoe. You know, what do I do with that? I'm looking. Here's where I'm looking. I'm reporting everything, guys, as we're going along here. I'm gently feeling united with the web of life because all the information comes through there. I am looking at all the shards of the broken mirror and the edges, the sharp edges of the shards of the broken mirror where the karma is sitting, where the separation is, where I've defined myself or decided that I'm not divine being. And the divine being is something out there separate, and that I'm just living my life as a human being on this earth with my hard row to hoe. I can't, I'm speaking for the ancestors. They're saying, I can't move my heart that way. You're asking me to move my heart and my heart chakra in a particular way so that I can feel a value or quality of love. And I can't. And I can't because it doesn't fit with my definition of reality. It doesn't fit with what I know myself to be. And we're replying back to this. It's a lot of ancestors, guys. We're replying back to them that all those difficult situations are not the reflection of your whole being. They're not the reflection of what you are. They're just the reflection off of a single shard of the mirror, okay? Just a little piece. So you can't define yourself on the shards, on what you get reflected back from the shards of the mirror. You can't, because you are totality. And your impulses of intelligence move in both directions, not just one. And this is the important part. Everything that you communicate, we communicate to ourselves first. So it's not the fact that you had to live through world wars, or that you had to live through times when there was slavery, or that you had to live through times when people treated each other terribly or inconsiderately, or where alcohol was consumed by a vast majority of the people in the population and, caused people to act irrationally and cruelly to each other. It's about how you responded to those experiences. This is what's important, how you responded to those experiences. And this is also very important. They're saying, no, but you're saying that I'm totality, so I therefore structured this thing and I'm responsible. I'm responsible for it. The answer is yes, because you wanted to see how you respond under duress. You wanted to know the experience. You wanted to know how much sweetness you could bring into a difficult experience. You wanted to know that you could be an angel in a field of darkness. And when you're an angel in a field of darkness, and we know that all of our ancestors are the ones who were able to get it together with other people and produce offspring, right? They were the ones who were successful. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been our ancestors. So we know that they were angels in darkness. They were. Of course they were. They were all divine being. Even the ones who didn't get together, they were still divine being. So divine being, wanted to communicate to itself how beautiful, how sweet, how compassionate, how empathetic, how loving, how strong, how tolerant, how precious, how adorable it could be, even when bumping up against those sharp edges, even in the presence of the sharp edges. So it makes the sharp edges, and then it bumps up against them. That's what it's doing. That's what divine being is doing. It's creating all these sharp edges that, oh, wow, that's what I look like. Oh, I'm an angel. It's saying to itself, this is what it does. The message is what you radiate. The message is what you radiate. And every radiation, every expression is an expression of divine being. It's either commenting on itself and creating the sharp edges, or it's bringing the sharp edges back to totality and saying, look, I'm wholeness. These are our 2 points of definition that give us, they start the roadmap of how we start to navigate through this abstract field of infinity, which is our play field, is our sandbox. for creating and producing specific effects in the environment, in our physiologies, in our lives, in our world. Just as the person who was having technical difficulties got their technical difficulties resolved as we were doing the healing for that. So the web of life also healed. And I want to go back and check in on that, our patient, our client here. Because when we draw our attention into that aspect of self, we get to enjoy the other side of what we're doing, which is receiving. So we're radiating out information, but we're also being antennas. We're also receiving. And I'm asking, and when I say I'm asking, my necklace is migrating. When I say I'm asking the web of life, what I'm doing is I am feeling my attention, I'm directing my attention intelligently into the subtler level of my own being, where the web of life resides as myself. Lovingly, remember, as we said yesterday, the quality of devotion is a sort of underlying resonation of the approach to this part of creation, because this is what the web of life is about. It is a being of devotion, where the devotion is so deeply integrated that everything it does is an act of devotion. Every impulse of its life existence is an act of devotion. Just feeling it. And we want to look at, because remember, we didn't completely resolve with the ancestors. They were like, yeah, but we need the sensationalism. We need the things that pull at our heartstrings. We need those expressions in the media. We need those expressions in the way our world communicates with us, because it honors and it acknowledges our suffering. I'm looking. Our suffering. So our suffering is not about, oh, I had a hard row to hoe, but it's that I hoed it with devotion. I hoed my row with devotion. This is the thing. So what one comes out at the end of the row, what one comes out with is the devotion. That's the important thing. And now it's folding back to the end. Now they're getting it. I can feel them getting it. I can feel the ancestors getting it. What they're getting is the change that's taking place, the transformation that's taking place in their physiologies. And yes, even if they're not living in those physiologies anymore, it doesn't matter, because in energy work, we're working outside the constraints of space and time. The change that's taking place in their physiologies is a transformation of the heart in order to align with greater refinement and perfection, the resonation of devotion, that love is coming into its exalted state. We talked about yesterday, devotion is love in motion. It is applied love. Devotion is love applied. Some people's lives are such pure devotion. I'm seeing it awakening in everyone's physiology who's in the webinar, and how it's like you're just becoming beacons of pure devotion. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And the web of life, which is itself a being of pure devotion, whose life is a life of pure devotion, not self-sacrifice, not I'm killing myself over here for you, no, but a devotion which is so full of divine expression that every resonation of expression is absolutely beautiful It's pure truth. It comes out in a form that doesn't make people suffer and struggle when they see the pure truth, but that just transforms the ignorance into knowingness. Ignorance into knowingness. And when I said the word knowingness, it comes out with another resonation behind it. It is that resonation, that sort of Shiva resonation. It is bringing the truth, which is hidden down, it's covered up and it's buried, bringing it out into the light so that it is acceptable and accepted and it's digestible. So part of this healing is about a mass transformation for the ancestors of everybody who's involved in this webinar, and it's expanding through that body of that ancestral archive, so that it comes back into real time and affects your first cousins and second cousins and third cousins and fourth cousins, and like out into the field of humanity at this time, in order to make way for a flow of pure truth, pure knowingness, pure truth, pure information to come forward into the field of creation in such a way that it is easily metabolized. So that's one side of it, is how do we take it in? Like, can I get this? Can I receive this? If it's, as long as it's not fighting with my own belief systems, then then it's okay. I can fit it in. Oh, I see, it clicks in right there. We're putting together a big puzzle. All the shards of the broken mirror, we're putting them back together. So the other side of that picture, so the one side is, how do I metabolize it when it comes in? And this shift is taking place, and it's taking place in lots of different areas of the being. The heart chakra mainly, but also the etheric body, because that's the part of your physiology that interfaces with your environment, and that's the part of your physiology that is essentially being embraced in this luscious hug of the web of life. There's a little loop. See, we've got loops going on, right? So you've got infinite being can loop up to different levels of the manifested self. Check out my second for more details on these layers. I'm holding up my fingers and people are like, what's that? So I just uploaded a video like last week about dividing the manifested field of creation into 8 layers. So some of the loops can go from infinite being up through various levels of the manifested expression of self. But in this case, we've got a loop like this, going right in here like this. So this temple, this holy space where we are in union with the web of life, it's contained in these subtle levels of the physiology, from this collective level up through the astral level of the physiology, and a little bit up into the emotional level too. That's where the purification is happening, and that's why for the ancestors it was a little uncomfortable. The emotional bodies were like, oh, I have some belief systems in my emotional body, not sure it fits. But now this has been cleared out, cleared that. So now the ancestors are able to receive. It's a huge upgrade. It's a huge upgrade. I'm seeing, for them, they're experiencing it happening at times in their lifespan when they were engaged in collective celebrations, marriages, birthdays, I don't know, holidays. For a lot of them, involved in various religious organizations, there's a yearly progression of holidays through, I know in Christianity. It is in those spaces, in those moments of their being, where the information slides in and where they begin to accept. And we all know that some families have a rough time at the holidays. And so again, it's that not so much what I'm facing and how difficult my row is to hoe, but how am I hoeing? Am I hoeing with devotion? And that's where it comes through. Hoeing with devotion. Sorry, it's not that funny. Anyway, the other part of the story is the purity of the information. And this is where we're going back and we're spending a little time with our beloved relationship with divine being is made manifest. It's made possible through our relationship with the web of life. So the web of life has undergone a transformation in this healing session. And now it is in a position, I'm checking, I'm asking. And as I ask, what I'm doing is I'm flowing, we're all asking. Thank you, everybody. Oh, you're so adorable. We're all asking through this restructured, spring cleaning, cleansed web of life, how do we offer our devotion to the source of creation, the birther of all the multiverse, the divine being, in such a way as to bring in a quality of relationship there that is so integrated, it's so tight, it's so complete that that relationship is established, permanently established. It is permanently and lovingly and completely the highest source of fulfillment for each of us. And if we can ask our ancestors too, I'm asking if we can ask our ancestors too, that they may also have that experience, and that we can use this sort of grid-like open structure that we've created in this healing that's supporting a flow of truth and knowingness, using it to expand that experience for everybody. So not just for us, we're not just doing this for us, we're doing it for everybody. To whatever degree anybody can receive it now, the answer that I'm getting back is that it's going to be structured right now in our webinar, and then it can go through some little transformations, because sometimes the healing happens. What we can do today is we can go into this deep level of creation and we can do the work. And then what happens is it's going to find its way. It has to break into an infinite number of shards. So that's going to happen. But when that happens, they'll all reflect back. And as they do so, the mirror comes back together as a whole mirror again. But that process, because this is big, and as I said before, it's the value, it's what I so appreciate and value about the live webinars, is that we do big, big work. So this is what is going to happen. This is where we're headed right now. And I'm going to do my best to define it clearly for everyone. Wish me luck. Thank you. So we're starting with devotion. Devotion has a completed form. Devotion has a body. Devotion has a body. It's not a physical body, it's a feeling body, but it is an integrated body that has its own defining characteristics. It has its own edges, if you will. It has its own range. And devotion is marrying. It's marrying the physiology. It's marrying the, that's my phone. Oh, okay. Luckily it's on silent. It's marrying the circulatory system. And it's marrying, I thought yesterday we did huge work on the endocrine system, so I was sure it would be the endocrine system. But the endocrine system is also receiving in this, because this will be an extension of yesterday's work there. Be sure, if you didn't catch yesterday's video, to go through and get that healing on the endocrine system, which of course everyone's receiving also right now who wasn't in on yesterday. But devotion is marrying into the physiology. It's marrying in at the dense levels of the physiology, because we've been working very kind of exclusively with the emotional through the subtle. Now we're working up in the more manifest, the more concrete levels of the physiology. Devotion is marrying the body at the systems level. And so all the systems can marry into all the systems. Devotion into all the systems. Devotion. And it's saying that in some of the systems, this is so interesting, some of the systems of the physiology, it's having trouble marrying because the definition, we have to restructure, in other words, clear illusion from some of the physical systems of the body, based on the idea that devotion is about self-sacrifice. And in this case, we're looking at pure devotion, the body of devotion as it resides at a very expanded, eternal, cosmic level of its existence. It's not about self-sacrifice. It's about action in bliss. It's about the bliss of self-communicating in such a way as to further pure expression of pure truth, refining the truth, making it more efficient. In previous webinars, we've talked about how our essential nature is knowingness. And I think it's interesting because we're kind of coming to the end of our hour here, that we started out this webinar talking about how there's this self-created commentary of infinity with itself, right? So it comments on itself, and the comment is kind of like an isolated point of expression that folds back and describes that which is indescribable. But even before that happens, even before, so we're getting way, see, we're moving from these levels where we've been married to and connected and integrated with the web of life. We're starting to move into the slightly more abstract level. So we're getting down to the celestial level of the body. So at a level before, prior to the self-created or uncreated commentary, we can call it. Uncreated in that humanity didn't create the commentary. Divine being itself created the commentary. Thank you to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for having discovered that. Before that, it's like the phase of experimentation where being is just, it's not even commenting on itself, it's just aware of itself. It's just aware that it exists. So that's even before the commentary begins. That level where wholeness or totality, and we can express it, since I'm speaking, as like awe, right? Awe. No, that wasn't I didn't make that up. That goes way back. Can then modify itself. Like that. It's still open and it's still flowing, but it's slightly modified, slightly like partially closed off. So we get these values of wholeness or totality that are still wholeness and totality, and they're still fully open, full truth, but they're kind of like playing in their own, it's playing in its own nature of being pure knowingness. So pure knowingness, knowing itself is pure knowingness. The act of knowing itself is knowingness. So knowingness, engaged in the action of knowingness, understands that it is knowingness. So we're bringing in this value of knowingness. And the reason that this is coming in right now at this point is that much of today's session, which I suppose I could have entitled this webinar something other than Falling in Love with Divine Nature, but it seemed appropriate at the time. It's really about integrating divine knowingness, divine self, divine being into all levels of what one understands oneself to be. How we self-define. How we self-define goes back to that simple definition. It doesn't have a lot of superfluous emotional baggage associated with it. Simple. Very simple. This is what we're falling in love with. This is what we're approaching with devotion, is knowingness. And the important point is that when we fall in love, we become one with the beloved. That's the end result. This is the upshot of this webinar, is to offer this experience of having become more deeply integrated. Physically, we worked with the dense levels of the physiologies. We worked at the molecular level of the physiologies with our ancestors. We worked out into the collective, is establishing a relationship, establishing, and all the ways in which we self-communicate. Divine being is communicating with itself, with every impulse of intelligence that moves through your being. Divine being is self-communicating. I'm feeling a lot of energy moving, a lot of energy, and the self-communication that's taking place is at this moment supportive of the most tender, the most sensitively delicate means. We're evolving. This is creativity. We're evolving. This is something that we're going to see come forward like in the next days, weeks, months, in this year. We're going to see this because we're creating it right now. The capacity to purify in a way which is so dense with devotion, so compact with devotion, that there is no damage in that process. It ends up not being a hard row to hoe. It ends up being a channel of pure knowingness to hoe. A channel of pure knowingness, which is intense bliss with every move of every muscle and every impulse of consciousness to interface. So, my dears, thank you. May every impulse of your life, may every thought, word, and action, may every experience of yourself be divine being experiencing itself. It is already, but may you enjoy it being that. May it be an act of such sweetness and fulfillment, just carrying you to ever higher and higher levels of fulfillment.